Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's our pleasure to have you with us in this great webinar about rethinking performance evaluation, best practices for high-performing organization. I'm Dr. Muhammad Rabi al-Sheikh, and I have the pleasure to be with you and with our dearest guest, Ms. Shireen al-Mansouri, a career planning and succession manager, Mina at Al-Shaya, and our dearest colleague, Ms. Sama Salama, Head of Organization and Talent Development, New Mossad Hospital. So, can you have the next slide, please? So, this presentation comes to you from HR Leaders Kuwait, Talmiya Group, and Qatar School Middle East, HR Excellence Club, and Quality and Excellence Middle East. We like to host such webinars and bringing people from different backgrounds and different expertise to add value to our community and hopefully, inshallah, to be a fruitful session. Let me introduce myself and introduce the presenters. I'm Dr. Muhammad Rabi al-Sheikh, the founder of Talmiya Consulting and HR Leaders Kuwait and Quality and Excellence Middle East, Qatar School Middle East. I'm certified executive and team coach at Marshall Goldsmiths, and I'm judge at many international awards like Stevie Awards. I had the pleasure that I worked with Zain, Vodafone, Arthur Anderson, Butte Investment Group, and Ministry of Finance. Okay, let me introduce the speakers for today. It's my pleasure to have Ms. Shireen Mansouri with us, with over 18 years of experience in HR, organization and talent development in the Gulf and North Africa. She had worked in different industries, including FMCG, retail, media, and real estate investment. She currently is the career planning and succession manager for Mina at Al-Shaya. She has a master's degree in business psychology from University of East London and CIPD Level 7 strategic diploma. And she is also accredited as ACC coach from the International Coaching Federation. She is also certified leadership trainer by Kim Blanchard and expert in assessment and competency mapping certified by Korn Ferry. Okay, let me introduce also Ms. Sama Salama. She is a leader in learning and development, performance management, and OD with more than 32 years of extensive experience in different sectors. She's currently is the head of OD and organization and talent development at New Mossad Hospital in Kuwait. She has a master's degree in education management from Richford University and certified organization manager from Florida University, USA. She worked in many places like USAID, American Cultural Center in Egypt, and in Kuwait in HumanSoft, Royal Hayat Hospital, and Butte Investment Group. So it's our pleasure to have you with us, and I'll leave now the mic to Ms. Shireen to start with us the first part of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, for introducing us, and thank you for this briefing. Let me start this evening with talking about performance evaluation. As we are heading to the year end, and we are thinking of how can we review our performance, the employees that reports to us, and make sure that we are fair in our assessments. I think everyone has his own approach, and every organization is approaching performance evaluation and call it in a different way. Sometimes we call it performance appraisal, we call it performance evaluation, we call it performance review, and blah, blah, blah. Even in Al-Shaya, we call it performance enablement. So everyone is calling it in a different way. But actually, every title has a different approach. So when we say performance evaluation and think about performance reviews as evaluation, it is completely different from thinking of it as enablement or management or even appraising. So let's see the performance management cycle as a whole, and then let's discuss the difference between these types of performance reviews. Okay, the performance cycle has main 4 phases. And if you have any question, you can just type it in the chat box, and I will answer them once I'm done. We will have some like 10 to 15 minutes at the end or in a Q&A session, Or if you have a burning question and you just want to get it answered on the spot, please raise your hand, and if it's possible, I will allow you to talk. Okay, so the performance cycle has 4 main phases. The phase number 1 is planning. By the end of each year, after reviewing performance, we start looking ahead for the next year. So everyone is looking now to 2025. What do we want to achieve in 2025? And then we set our goals. After we set our goals during the whole year, we will monitor the performance. And then by the end of the year, again, we will review the performance and reward people. So this is the general performance cycle. Each phase of this has a lot to do inside. And I can say that 80% or 70% of the organizations are not really applying or following the 4 phases. And if they are also doing this in different ways. So sometimes we are planning and set our goals, but setting the goals can also be different from one organization to another. And we will go to each phase of this and talk in detail about each of them and the best practices that we can follow to ensure high-performing organizations. So let's start first by the planning, where we start to set our organizational goals and departmental goals. Why do you think the planning is important for managing and enabling? You can type in the chat if you want. Okay. Yes, see, to set a clear criteria, measurement for success, definitely. Yes. When we think about the new year, what do we want to achieve? We need to plan for the next year, because if we don't plan, we don't really know what are we going to achieve. It will be a mess. It will not be organized. We will not actually aim to achieve something. Let's talk more about planning and goal setting. What are the best practices for planning and goal settings? We have 4 key areas that we need to tackle when we are doing setting our goals. Number 1, the vertical alignment. Number 2 is the horizontal alignment. Number 3 is setting clear expectations. And number 4 is the proper communication. I'll break down each of them and talk about each of them separately. So let's talk about alignment first. I'll talk about the vertical and the horizontal alignment together, and we call this the golden thread. Have you ever heard about the golden thread concept before? So the golden thread means that the whole organization vertically and horizontally is aligned toward a specific goal or toward achieving a main purpose or a great purpose. Once the organizational goals or the visions or the mission for the next year has been updated, then the management should cascade this to the employees or the departmental managers to understand what is the direction for the next year. What do we want to achieve? What are the main pillars that we want to focus on in the next year? So when the departments or the functions start to set their goals, they will not put these goals separately from their mind, because we have a lot to achieve and we aim to achieve a lot. But what we want to achieve might not really be needed from the business and might not be aligned with what the business needs in the next year. So understanding what the business needs will help us actually to set our goals to achieve the main goal of the organization. And this is what we call vertical alignment. So based on the higher or the top management goals, then the departments start to align their goals, contribute in achieving these higher goals. How about the horizontal alignment? We have in all the organization, we have different functions, different divisions, different areas doing different type of work. If everyone set their own goals in silos without communication, without alignment, everyone will be singing a different song. But when those departments or functions understand the goals for each other and get their goals set in alignment so they can feed each other or serve the achievement of each other, then the whole organization will be working in harmony and achieving their goals in harmony. And by doing this, we will have unified direction, we will have collaboration, we will eliminate silos, working in silos. So each department focus on something different, completely different from the other department. I can give an example of this. So for example, if we want to achieve internal mobility, for example, that was a burning topic in our organization. So this is why I'm giving that example. If I want to achieve internal mobility, and or the organization aims actually to achieve an internal mobility, and we want to identify who are our internal talents, who are the high performers, and we want to encourage cross functions and cross division movements from one division to another to enable this internal mobility of employees. While other departments still think that they want to keep their own talents for themselves. Are they helping us achieving our goal? Definitely not. So they need to understand that this goal needs to be achieved by the organization and that we have something that has to be contributed from other departments as well, so we can, from an organizational level, achieve that goal. Do you have any question? Yes. I'm just checking the chat if there's anything. Yes, Ramda, thank you. Okay. So after talking about the alignment, the vertical alignment and the horizontal alignment and why they are important in setting our goals, number 3 is clear expectations. So define what success looks like. When we are setting our goals, we need to make sure that the goals are smart. Do we understand what success looks like when we set our goals? Do the employees understand what is important for the organization? So if I put a goal for my employee, or my employee put a goal for himself, does he understand how can he measure success? How can he, within the year, understand if he is going in the right direction or not? Does they understand what behaviors are valued by the organization? And how can they measure their success during the journey? What is important and what is not important? It is really vital to understand or define what success looks like. So if I set a goal now, to make sure that I've achieved this goal, I need to define what are the success criteria for these goals. If I do that, then I can take a box that this goal is achieved. If I cannot achieve this, then there is something going wrong. So setting clear expectations is extremely important, because sometimes we come to the end of the year and start doing the performance evaluation, and I'm starting to rate my employee, for example, and I think that person was not consistent in his performance, and I want to rate him as inconsistent or underperformer. But for him, he never gets understanding what was really expected from him. So when I in the discussion or the feedback discussion, when I tell that person that you did X, Y, Z, and that was not really welcomed by the organization, or that was not supposed to happen, or that was wrong, then the big question is why you did not tell me before, why you did not let me know what was expected from me, from a behavior perspective, from success, from whatever is needed or expected from the organization. The person needs to understand what is really expected from him before the beginning of the year, so they can be enabled for success. Okay. And after setting expectations, we have to communicate those expectations. Why do we have to communicate expectations? Why do people need to understand what is really expected from them? So if I set the expectations, I need also to communicate those expectations to them. They need to understand. They need to understand what is required. They need to get feedbacks, not one time by the end of the year, not twice a year. This should be dynamic, should be live, should be continued during the year. I have to give it my employees every week one-to-one session or bi-weekly or monthly even, to understand, to give them feedback, what went well, what needs to be improved, what they need to work toward for progress or development, so they understand. So the 4 areas that are really related to setting goals and extremely important to make sure that we are having the right planning or setting goals is the vertical alignment, the horizontal alignment, clear expectations, and clear communication or proper communication. The second phase is monitoring, when we start to monitor the progress of the performance of our employees during the year. What are the best practices to make sure that we are monitoring the success or the performance of the employees in the right way? There are actually 7 areas that needs to be done to make sure that we are setting our people for success. Number 1, during the year, we need to give them continuous feedback, as I just said. It is important for the people to understand if they are going in the right direction or not. We need to check with them. Because if you leave the employee to the whole year doing something, working on a specific goal without this feedback, and then blame them at the end of the year for not achieving, then what are you doing as a manager? What is your role as a manager? Is it just to jump on the employee at the end of the year and rate him or judge him for not doing well? But actually, the person that should be judged at that time is the line manager themselves, because they did not do their role. The right role for the manager is to support the employee and give them the right feedback to make sure that they are going in the right direction. Well-being check-ins. We are working with human beings. We're not working with machines. We all face challenges. We all face personal issues. We have our downtimes, and sometimes we are not really able to produce, and performance is fluctuating. We cannot really be high performers all the time, and we need to accept this as managers. We need to understand that the people we are working with can have also downtimes, cannot be 100% productive all the time, but we need to check with them as managers and provide support and ask them to go for sick leave if they need, to get any support, psychological support if needed, to talk, to coach them. They need to feel that they are being treated as human beings, not machines that will be judged and evaluated by the end of the year. Number 3 is the resources availability. So if I ask the employees to produce something, an output, they need to have the input. Do they have the right resources needed for them to produce what I'm asking them to? Do they have the right skills? Do they have the right technology? Do they have the right any other human resources if they are managing others? Do they have the time, the availability of the manager? All these are resources. I need to make sure that I'm not really overloading people or asking them to achieve something while I'm not enabling them on how to achieve this. So if I know that someone has an issue in a specific skill, and I'm asking him to achieve a goal that needs that specific skill, I need to make sure that I'm improving and developing him in that area before just throwing him in the sea. So I need to actually equip the employees with whatever tools needed, whether it's learning, whether it's training, and whether it's even on-the-job training or discussion or coaching or whatever, to make sure that they are enabled and have the tools to achieve the goal. Sometimes the resources could be the support and the buy-in from the business, and the seniority levels differences between managers and subordinates will the employee will need the support of his managers to get the buy-in, for example, from other stakeholders to get things done or achieved. He cannot do this himself, and his goal is really dependent on the line manager getting the buy-in from the stakeholders. And if I am as a line manager and is not able actually to get this buy-in and support my employee, then I'm not really enabling my employee to achieve and be resourceful. Number 4 is managing workload. Again, we are human beings, and we cannot really ask people to do a lot of things that is really more than can be achieved. Whatever we are asking people to do, we need to make understand that they have the time and enough time to achieve it. Yes, progress is important, but also quality is important. Health is important, well-being is important. I can't really see my employees staying until night every day or working weekends. And I think this is something nice or good. And I think that they are hard workers. They are actually burning and we're not noticing. They are burning inside, but we don't notice this. It will happen suddenly and those people will collapse if we don't really give attention to their health, mental health and physical health. And also, we cannot judge them for not producing or not achieving while we are asking them for too much. So managing the workload and the time of the employees is the line manager role during the year before reviewing or evaluating the employee's performance by the end of the year. Number 5 is developing coaching or mentoring. So during the year, I need to understand also what is needed from my employees. Do they need coaching based on their seniority, based on their abilities, based on their readiness to achieve specific goals? They will need some guidance from me. So mentoring or guidance or direction is needed for people who are starting new tasks, for example. They need a task that is very detailed. You need to give them very detailed information on how to do a task until they master it, and then they will be able to do it. While other people who are more senior or they are more capable to do things, they will not actually appreciate this direction in micromanaging. They will need more coaching. You can just giving high-level guidance, asking some questions to provoke their thoughts and let them think of how can they find a solution for a problem or achieve a specific goal, because they know the answer. They just want you to give them the required support. And of course, development is needed along the way, because while we are going into complex issues in complex areas, we are also developing. We don't have to be promoted to feel that we are developed. During the same role, and this actually, we are living in a very, very complex world, and things are really getting challenging every day. And we need to make sure that our people are equipped enough to face these challenges. So developing the employees as a manager is hugely important. And I can't say that because the goal can be achieved because it was smooth and everything was going well. But challenges will happen during the year. And I can't come at the end of the year and tell the person that he did not really achieve, because he did a lot of effort, but he needed some development. Some areas have had gaps that needs to be filled with you as a manager, but you didn't do that role. So you can't blame the person at the end. You need to fill in those gaps during the year before coming at the end and then ask the person why he did not achieve or blame him for not achieving. And then we have KPIs. And when I say KPIs here, I don't mean actually the the targets or the numbers that need to be checked by the end of the year or within the performance review cycles. I mean that we have to identify indicators, and that is actually why key performance indicators had been initiated from the beginning. So the person who set the KPIs at the beginning, the main purpose is to make us sure that we are going in the right direction. So if I set for myself a goal, for example, if I'm a recruiter, for example, and I have 100 vacancies that I need to achieve by the end of the year. So my goal, the big goal that will be evaluated by the end of the year, is filling in the 100 vacancies. But how can I measure my performance during the year to make sure that I am doing well? I don't need improvement. I don't need support. There is no challenges. KPIs will come here to play that role. I have to set some indicators that will tell me if I'm going in the right direction or not. So for example, on a monthly basis, I can achieve 10 goals, sorry, 10 vacancies, fill in 10 vacancies or 5 vacancies or whatever. So if I'm able to do that, then things are going well. If I'm not able, then there is something wrong. The goal is not achievable, or there is a challenge in the source or the way I'm trying to source employees, or the market is not really have enough supply of candidates, or we are not paying enough. There is a problem that needs to be tackled, because if I'm not measuring this periodically, monthly basis, weekly basis, quarterly basis, and then I will come by the end of the year and I will surprise the managers or surprise the management that I was not able to achieve the goals because I was not really setting KPIs for myself to check if I'm going in the right direction or not. Lastly is adaptability. And why adaptability here is important, because we set goals, but we need to also be flexible in those goals. Sometimes we have to revisit our goals during the year. Sometimes we have to be adaptable and flexible in changing our goals, because sometimes external forces can force us or push us to change our goals. Sometimes it's internal. So these factors need to be considered. For me as a manager, I need to be aware of what is happening outside my organization, externally, globally, that is really impacting my organization and impacting me achieving the goals, and impacting as well the employees that reports to me. And sometimes I have to be logical in accepting that goals needs or can be adapted or changed. So the goals needs to be revisited during the year. We cannot set them in the end of 2024 and then open the files again and look at them the end of 2025 and surprised, oh wow, that we were not able to achieve because things happened. Yes, but why don't we revisit it to understand that these things are impacting us and we have to adapt and change? This agility is really important to make sure that we are achieving something by the end of the day. We don't just throw blames on others, or throw blame on the environment, or throw blame on what is happening externally or globally on the war or whatever, that we're not really achieving. We can achieve. There is always a way. If plan A is not working, plan B can work. If plan B cannot, then plan C can. I will pause here, and I would like to see if anyone has any question. I don't see actually the chat. So Dr. Rabia, if you can see anything that I'm not able to see, please let me know.
Yes, okay. All positive comments. Okay, but if anyone has a question, please let us know so far.
Okay. Okay, so I will move then to the reviewing phase. So we have completed the planning phase. We've done it well. And then during the year, we've monitored, we give the feedback, we upgraded our employees, we coached them, we enabled them, blah, blah, blah. Let's now review and see the output of this whole year, what happened. And also most of the managers, when they are trying to evaluate, or this actually exercise is being done in a way that is ticking box. So when the cycle came and people start to evaluate their employees, I feel like it's most of the time it's a burden on the managers that they have to evaluate their employees. They are thinking of this is related to rewards and bonus. I have to give feedback. I just don't want to be in a conflict. I don't want to be confronted with my people. I want everyone to be happy because I don't want to do my role as a manager. I'm escaping. I'm trying to escape the difficult conversations. So I will rate everyone high. So everyone will be happy and I will be happy and everyone will get paid bonus. And then the problem happens when there is a challenge in the organization and any collapse happen, the problem will really appear. So differentiating performance is extremely important. And we as line managers and we as HR people has to understand the different ways of differentiating performance. There are a lot of things that or tools that can be done to differentiate performance. I'm giving here 2 examples of the differentiating performance, which is the 4 points rating and the 5 points ratings. And there are actually differences between them. The slides will be given to you, and there are recommendations here that is mentioning when to choose the 4 points rating or when it is most appropriate, and when to choose the 5 points rating and when it is appropriate. And for people who are not really familiar with the 4 points rating and the 5 points rating, so the 4 points rating is we have 4 ratings, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we actually skipping to have something in the middle. So we have people who are either below or high, and it is really, really decisive, and it is helping the organization to highly reduce inflation and bias and skip, because if we have something neutral in the middle, people will most of the time rely on just giving people meeting expectation, and the headache will go away. So it's difficult, but at the same time, it's more accurate and more. It will enable the organizations to reduce inflated ratings and bias. It is recommended when managers are capable to manage difficult conversations, because, as I said, and I'm not going to say all managers, but some managers will actually escape difficult conversations by putting meeting expectations. So you are good, you're meeting all the expectations, you're fine, because they don't want to be confronted. They don't want to go through that difficult conversation and let people know that there were issues. And also because they did not do the homework that we were just talking about. They did not communicate. They did not let the employees understand what success looks like. They did not really monitor and develop their employees during the year. They did not set their employees for success. Maybe they did not enable them even to perform. They maybe overloaded them with works. They were not checking their well-being, blah, blah, blah. And then they avoid all these conversations by the end of the year by giving them meeting expectations. So the 4 points rating can be a solution for this, but the managers needs to be capable to manage difficult conversations. On the other hand, the 5 points rating, it is more complex, but it is flexible, because it is, for different reasons, it is really allowing the organization to differentiate employees on a bigger scale. So it's good for big organizations and for organizations that has complex roles that needs to differentiate performance of each role. And also it is good for organizations that is going through transformation or development or value growth of people, because there is that niche of people who are exceeds expectation and far exceed expectations are the people who are exceptional, which is missed in the 4 points rating. So it is good if the organization really wants to differentiate those people who are extremely overachieving and enable them to grow. But again, choosing the 4 points rating, the 5 points rating, or even the 3 points rating, the managers needs to understand what does that mean. Because sometimes for us as HR people, we understand this. But sometimes, or most of the time, I can say this out loud, managers are not aware of the appraising system. They don't understand even how to measure success. And that is a big role for HR. We need, when we design the process, we need to tell them what does it mean. What does 4 points rating? How can I measure if that, or know if that person is meeting or exceeding or less or inconsistent? If it's related to goals, it is easier because goals again are something that is more measurable and tangible. But when it comes to functions that has no tangible outcomes, that is more subjective, that needs to be more that the managers need to be more enabled to understand. So if it's a behavior, for example, they need to understand the frequency of that behavior. What does it look like? What does success look like? What if someone is exceeding expectation, for example, in communication? What does that mean? What does it look like? How should the person behave to be exceeding expectations? And most of the time, neither the manager or the employee know the answer. So it is very important before judging people and evaluating them and rating them and tick the box and filling the forms, we need to make sure that we understand and they also understand. Okay. Then I'm going to talk about, again, for differentiating performance, the guided distribution. And some people call it forced distribution. I'm personally against the forced distributions. But I am with the guided distribution, but this needs to be done consciously, because again, as it is, it has its positive points, it also has its negative points. So the guided distribution, for people who are not really familiar with it, is the bell curve, where we are starting to add, when the performance evaluation is done, we add all the data to this to see how many people who are exceeding expectations or extremely exceeding expectations, and how many people have been ranked at 5, for example, how many has been ranked as 4, and how many has been ranked at 3, how many has been ranked at 2 and 1. So this will give us, this can be done on a departmental level. So the manager will see the distribution of his employees on that bell curve. So the percentage of exceeding expectation people, how many, or how the percentage, is it 5%, is it 10%, is it 1%, or maybe some departments might not have any person who is exceeding expectation. So it's a way of visualization to enable the organization to see how they are performing, and the data is really valuable, specifically if we have big organizations and big number of employees. We need to understand the performance data. What is it telling us? So how many person that we have exceeding expectation, and what are we doing with them? Are we developing them? Are we promoting them? Are they ready for other roles? What are we doing with their plans? And on the other hand, the people who are underperformers or inconsistent, what are we doing to improve their performance and enable them to excel. There are, as I said, positive points and negative points to that guided distribution. So the positive points are they are reducing rating inflation and bias, because if I'm as a manager and I want to avoid difficult conversations, or I have favorite people that I want them to get paid more bonus, or I have some employee that I want to promote, or I hate someone and I want to put him in a trouble, so I can play with the data. I'm the manager. But when you have a guided distribution, it will show how many people in each segment. So before you start rating people subjectively and with bias, you will think twice. Specifically, if the HR or the top management are looking into the data, and sometimes they challenge managers for having inflated rates. And number two is encouraging objective evaluation, which is, again, it's the opposite of the number one. So it is reducing bias, then it is encouraging objective evaluations, because if I'm being challenged for rating someone unconsciously biased or even consciously biased, and then I will have to think about this again and make sure that I am providing an objective evaluation, and I'm providing some evidence to this evaluation as well. So if I have a discussion, or I've been asked or challenged, why do I have the highest percentage of exceeding expectation in the whole organization in my department? If I'm sure that I'm doing the right thing, I'm doing the objective evaluation, and I have my evidence, and then I'm confident about my evaluation, I can show people, here is it. It's because 1, 2, 3, 4, because I'm not allowing underperformer to continue in my department, because I'm developing my people, because I'm enabling them, because. So yes, the percentage of exceeding expectation in my department is high. You have to accept it because of this. And this is why it is a guided distribution. It is not a forced distribution. We should not really force managers to put people in boxes, because this is the distribution that we want to achieve. I'm totally against this, because there are norms in the organization, and we have different roles that are more complex, and we have roles that are more simple and that can be achieved. And sometimes the external world is really impacting the achievement and the performance of people, and I cannot really force the manager to follow that distribution, but I can guide them. It also helps in differentiating performance, as we have just discussed, and it pushes managers to give constructive feedbacks rather than avoiding difficult conversations. The negative point, number one, the perceived unfairness, because sometimes managers are using it in the wrong way when they start to force the distribution. So people may think it is unfair to be rated that way, to follow the distribution. And sometimes it may overlooks the context and differences in teams. As we have just said, the context can be different internally or externally. And also the differences in teams. Some teams are really high performers and some teams struggles. And some teams are facing challenges, specifically if they are in sales department, for example. They will definitely face challenges, and we cannot really force the manager to follow a specific distribution. It puts pressure sometimes on the managers when they feel like they have to be forced, and it could be rigid or fails to adapt to performance dynamics. Okay, so I'm done with this, and the part of the feedback. Sama is going to give us a thorough discussion and presentation around the feedback. So she will cover the feedback and the feed forward. And here it's just a brief about the different roles of the HR. Number one, it's the designing an enabling process, and train the employees and build their capabilities to achieve it. And the data analytics, as we have just discussed in the guided distribution, and also challenge the managers to do their roles. I'm done. Thank you for having me. Over to you, Sama.
Thank you so much, Shireen, for this thorough presentation. Actually, it's full of information. Thank you so much for sharing them. Good evening, everybody. I'm so happy to be with you today, and I have the pleasure to continue with where Ms. Shireen has stopped. Knowledge is accumulated and connected. So she covered the performance management or performance evaluation in general and its types. And she mentioned a couple of times the feedback. It's not good enough to do the evaluation without letting the employees know where they are, what they need to do. So my part today will be very simple. I'll try to cut it shorter than I expected to make it in 15 minutes maximum, inshallah. If you allow me first to share my screen. Is it okay, Shireen and Dr. Rabia?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So today we'll be talking about taking our feedback from what's called feedback to feed forward and what's the difference between them. The first thing, let's discuss what's meant by the feedback. Simply said, it's to let people know how good they are doing, what they need to improve. So it's the responses or comments given to individuals regarding their behaviors or performance. And it is mainly with the focus on evaluating what have already happened. It's the past, what they did and what we think about what they did, whether it was good or not good enough. Then if we talk about their why is it important to give this? I don't know what happened with the screen, wallahi yani, but I can do this. Subhanallah. Okay, so number one thing, it's the reason why we need to have this feedback. Number one, to boost self-awareness. We need to help our employees be self-aware of what they know, what they do good, what they need to improve. Also, in general, it will lead to improving their performance in total. Also, it will build the trust between the manager and the staff or the team members. Then it will foster a culture of improvement all over the organization. And by this also will enhance the engagement and retention of good employees and good performers. If we move on to when to give the feedback, it's always said that no news is good news. So most of the managers, they think that if the staff member does something not that good or bad, they have to go directly and talk to him or her and attract their attention. This is not good. But the right thing that we have to, this is totally wrong. The feedback should be given ongoing, all the time, timely. And by timely, we mean on the right time. As soon as the action is done or the behavior is done or the performance issue you have noticed as a manager, you have to start talking to your staff member and giving your feedback immediately as it's still fresh, طازة يعني, like what we say. What are the...
Yes. One more thing. Can I ask you to hide this bar that you have on the screen?
What bar? This one?
See, up
this one?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Slides, view, slide master. Oh my goodness.
I think the bar is in the Zoom. A Zoom bar. It's called
the Zoom bar.
Yes. App zoom.us. Sharing your screen. Say hi. Just
Okay, stop sharing. One bar. This one.
No bar, we don't see anything.
Yes. Still?
We cannot see. We have to share again.
Is it can now?
Still appearing. I'm not sure if you can see it on the iOS.
That's it?
That's okay.
That's it?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
So if I go back to start talking about the types of the feedback, most of the people think that types of feedback are either negative or positive. Negative if someone does something good, and negative if someone does something not good or bad. Actually, there are different categories. One type is talking about whether it's positive or negative, which is known for everyone, negative feedback, and it's better to call it corrective because our aim is to correct, not to show that it's negative or bad. So it's the comments about past behavior, things that didn't go well when we rate it like poor. And the other type, on the other hand, طبعا, we have the positive, and it's again good to call it affirming, to make it affirmation for the staff that you need to keep this and repeat doing it that way. And it is about also about things that happened, but I want them to repeat or be repeated many times the same way when something is excellently done. This is one category. We have another category called the destructive and constructive. For the destructive, when you destroy the staff member, he did something not that good, like this example, he made a mistake, I will make sure he knows how bad it was. This is not helping the staff to learn something. This is not helping him to improve for the future, do a better job. But the constructive, on the other hand, he made a mistake. I will explain what he did wrong and how to correct it in the next time. So, although it's a negative feedback, but I use it in a constructive way. Is it clear to everybody?
Yes.
Hello? Yes, okay. So now if we talk about the qualities of effective feedback, how to tell that the feedback you have given to your staff is effective with the right purpose of it and achieving the purpose. Number one, it should be useful for them. Not talking about something that's minor that will not affect their job or their performance. Number two, as mentioned before, timely. It means on the spot or immediately right after the action is done. Not to keep it till the end of the year or after 2, 3 months, you tell him, do you remember when you did so and so? This was not good. No, it has to be timely, yani, as soon as done. It should be specific. Don't tell him, I don't like your performance or I don't like your reports. Specify one report when something was not good with his report or even when something was very good with his specific report. Be positive, not to give him the tone that he's useless, he's hopeless, and no way he can improve. Always be positive. Find something little, even something little, to tell him that this was good and you need to improve the other part. Brief, don't make it prolonged and make the people feel that, oh my God, he's going to give me lessons now. It will be too much talk. No, it's a brief with just a very good, excellent, bravo. I want you to keep this up. Or we need to talk about this again, and I will show you how to do it better. To be kind, he is a human. End of the day, he's a staff member. He's your team member, and he's human. So be kind to him. Respect his feelings. Respect his dignity. Respect his position. Respect and give him the privilege of he's still learning, even if he's well experienced, but everyone makes mistakes sometimes. So it's good to direct him or monitor and guide him in a decent and kind, sorry, not harmful, طبعا, humble way. Be honest that if it's good, it's truly good. If it's not good, it's truly not good. Okay? Now, what we were talking about was the back about what happened before, what happened in the past. Now, if we talk about, let's move on to the forward. What happened, what's done is done, what's done cannot be undone. So, how to do things differently in the future? If I keep talking to my staff and my team members in a way that you did, so always the focus is the past. Let's not regret what happened in the past. Let's take the lesson and move on to the future and tell them how to do things and encourage them to do things better even in the future. Okay? So if I talk about the what's feed forward, as you see here in this picture, I chose it because I feel it's expressive. Your eyeglasses focus on the future, not looking at the past. So providing constructive suggestions for future behaviors or performance, emphasizing solutions and improvement opportunities for the staff, for the project, for the organization. Why is it important to why is it important to give this feed forward? I don't know what happened. Wallahi, I swear I did it. Yalla khair, khair. Let's move it here. I'm sorry. So number one, it change it from it focus on being optimist for growth opportunities. So it's more opportunity, optimism. There is a hope for future. Tomorrow we'll do better. And this will lead to growth opportunities. Also, it's a solution oriented. We don't focus on the problem, what happened, or the mistake. We focus on how to improve and do things the better way. So think of the solution, how to solve it, and how to avoid the same situation from happening again. It saves time. Instead of waiting for the problem to happen and then think of how to solve it, no, it will prevent. So it's kind of proactive instead of react to what happened. It improves productivity and morale, both sides. So from staff productivity and their morale and work environment in the place as well. In the next point, create more positive work environment for sure. I hope you agree with me. Now, to make it clear, and I found some kind of examples of how to give one feedback as constructive, as positive, and as feed forward, okay? The first example, to give a positive feedback, for example, you can say, great job on your presentation. The examples you provided were clear and helped explain the concept effectively. To this part, what did we do? We just gave positive feedback, giving him impression that we liked what they did so much. But to turn it into a constructive feedback, we can say your presentation had valuable information, but it was difficult to follow because the slides were crowded with text. So I attracted his attention to what's the missing part or what's the gap or what's the thing he needs to work on to improve, but still I didn't give the how. For the feed forward, if you want to talk about the same example and give it for feed forward, you will tell him, for your next presentation, try using bullet points and visuals to make your slides more engaging and easy to understand. So I hope with this example, it can show you the difference between the three types. Of course, it's not all the time you give the three, but maybe you know that this staff, he knows that he's doing good, so bravo. It's enough to give the positive feedback for this moment. But if you want to help him to focus on what needs to improve, then you will give the constructive, attracting his eye to the point he has to work on. And the feed forward, you tell him for the future, don't tell him what you did, but for the future, to make it better, you can do 1, 2, 3. Another example, again, for positive feedback, we can say this is talking to a team leader, for example. Your team meetings are informative and effective. Very good. So we are happy with this team leader and his meetings with his team. This is only positive, but how to make it constructive? Your team meetings are informative, but they often run over time. Managing the agenda more strictly could make them even more effective. So now again, I attracted the eye to what he needs to focus on in order to improve. To have it as a feed forward for the future, you can tell him or her for future meetings, consider setting time limits for each agenda item and ensure the discussion stays focused and concise. So by then, you told him that he's doing good and what he can do in the future. You guided him and you gave him the advice on how to do better job with his team meetings and so on. Of course, examples are endless. You can think of this way, different ways, and don't do the same way every time with the staff member because they may get bored. But don't tell me you're doing bad. How can I improve? I'm doing good. Every time tell me you're doing good, you're doing good. Okay, where is the area for improvement? How can I make it even better next time? So with these two examples, it takes me to the questions and comments and suggestions if you have. So who has a question, please? Or a comment to add to our...
Can you get the other slide before the question?
Before this one?
No.
Example?
No, go after. No. Go to the last slide.
The example. This was the last one.
No. Go to the last slide. After thank you.
Hey, thank you, Dad.
Is there another slide?
It's my presentation. Yeah, it's my presentation. I can share it.
Okay. Before we go to the Q&A, let me tell you a small thing, and then we can go for the questions. And then
I will stop sharing so Shireen can go now.
Yes.
Sure.
Today, I'd like to thank Shireen and Sama for their great presentation. I hope it was very informative and very valuable for us. And why we said that we need to focus on both things. So we talked about the first part, which is talking about the performance itself and all these things related to the performance and so on. And then from previous experience, we always see that people lack the part of how to give and receive the feedback, because this is how to get things implemented on the ground. I always just like to end with this slide that it's called the continuous improvement cycle, plan, do, check, act cycle, PDCA cycle, because my background is coming from quality management and organizational excellence. So I see that it's all related. Put the plan, you put the goals, you have to do checks as the evaluation, and then you can define where are the gaps. And then we can improve our performance, taking the corrective actions and having new plan. So what we're talking about, yes, could be very nice and so on. But again, when it comes to reality as execution, there are a lot of lessons learned. So how can you learn and continuously improve your performance? This is the key. So let's ask the people for their feedback, their questions, and so on. So any question, you can write it down. You can take the mic and ask questions as much as you like. So Lamis was asking about system or website for 360 feedback. I think we can share with you maybe during now or after the meeting about some tools we can share experience. Raja was asking about a good manual for evaluation and good tools to apply this. Nirmeen was asking about when an employee is not progressing after sharing the feedback, what do you advise us to do? Okay, what's your advice for people who are not progressing even after getting the feedback?
The question is to you, doctor, or to myself?
You, anyone.
Okay, actually giving the feedback is one step. It's not all in all. To start with the feedback in a nice, decent, respectful, as we mentioned before, you try it one time, 2 times, 3 times. Maybe the way you were, I mean, the boss who was talking did not convey or convince the staff about the need for this. So he needs to give example. He needs to encourage. He needs first to see what's wrong with him. Is it his attitude or his skill, or he has some pressures at work or maybe in his personal life? So it's a big cycle. You have to look at all parts, all its parts. If it doesn't work, then tell him, what do you need me to do to help you improve this? Would you need, do you think you need some kind of training, online training? You need coaching, whatever. So the third level, when you go, if you don't improve, I'm afraid this will affect your performance evaluation. So you started raising the tone شوية, slowly, or step by step. So in the beginning, you are by his side trying to help him as much as you can. But if he doesn't cope, he doesn't improve, you will let him know that in the future, soon in the future, when it comes to the performance evaluation, this reflected and this won't be good for you. I think by then 90% he has to improve. If not, I guess he's not the right person in the right place. This is my idea. What do you think, Dr. Rabia?
Yes, I think it's not an easy task. Okay, I think it needs a lot of practicing this with the people and see how can everyone respond to this, because people in their reactions, they are different. But again, I highly believe that the performance discussion, let me say, not necessarily the appraisal, again, because giving feedback, it's an ongoing process, not only at the appraisal time. So whenever you are giving feedback or discussing with anyone, I think you should have I'll not say the stick and the carrot, but again, if you can do this, this would be the reward. If not doing this, then there'll be consequence of what you are doing. Again, we cannot change people's behavior, okay? But again, we are trying to enable them, give them the tools and so on. But again, if people are not responding after all what you are trying to do with them, then you have to take action. Okay? Maybe ask Shireen as well for her opinion.
Yeah, I think so I just need to differentiate between two things here, and I think Sama has referred to this. So in the feedback discussion, the manager and the employee needs to agree on an action plan for improvement and understand if it's the poor performance or the performance or the underperformance was based on a skill, or the manager know that it's a behavior or an attitude. The easy one is the skill because it can be improved and developed. But the most challenging one is that is more related to behavior and attitude, specifically if the person has a fixed mindset and they are not really receiving feedback, and they are not they think they know everything, or they are just playing victim, that they are being underrated, or we don't value them. Those kind of people will need, plus the plan, the action plan, they might need some coaching if they are coachable to get them on track. And if everything is not really working and we really understand that it's an attitude and behavior, then it's up to them. They call for leading the organization, because they are not the right people actually to invest in and put effort in them.
Yes, one of the most important things, that's why each time we talk about performance appraisal or performance evaluation, that about, are your managers ready for giving the appraisal? Because most of the managers, they don't know how to do it. You have to train them, let them practice and see how can they do it, because this is one of the main gaps of our organization, okay? I have another question here. Mr. Muhammad Hamdi was asking about what the best practice for the appraisal. Shall we start with employees making self-assessment, and then direct managers or supervisors do the other part, and then they can sit and discuss, or one way? What do you think?
From my experience, it depends on what level of the staff, education-wise, position-wise, maturity-wise as well. Are they aware of what's a self-evaluation? Can they do this? If they are, for example, blue collars, people who do not have access to computers, so this will be hard for them. But if they are people who are well educated and have the access to computers, and they can understand what's meant by self-evaluation, because everyone, if you ask him how good you are, I'm perfect. Everyone see himself as a perfect person and perfect performer. So again, it depends on the maturity and type of positions. For example, in our hospital, we have this self-appraisal for administration, management, senior nurses, but people like junior nurses and housekeeping and maintenance, these people not that at that level of maturity and education and understanding of the value and how to evaluate themselves from. So yes, not for everyone, not yes for everyone, and not no for everyone. And even for those who will do it, you have to train them first and give them understanding on how to evaluate myself and how to know that this is for my good, to find out the gaps in order to improve. It's not to show or pinpoint that I'm weak and I'm not good enough for the job, because this is the thing that will hinder their openness for their evaluations, even with their managers. Thank you.
Shireen, you'd like to comment?
Yeah, I think this question is really good, but I also think that it doesn't have one answer, one right answer, because it depends on different contexts. It depends on different environments and different organizations. So as someone mentioned, it also, one factor is the career level of the employees and the maturity of the employees. But on the other hand, another factor is the role of the line manager. So if I'm as a manager, giving a continuous and a weekly or periodically feedback to that employee, they will not be thinking that they are perfect. If they are aware of the mistakes that they are doing or the pitfalls that they have, or they are getting even a good feedback, so they will not actually extremely or rate themselves in an inflated way. And even if it's in the low career levels, so people who are working with tasks, so maybe cleaners, for example, they have specific tasks that can really be measured. So they cleaned, they did that, they do that, and the continuous feedback can be given to them. So if it is important and if it's going to add value to the organization to ask those people to evaluate themselves, then it is welcomed. And if the organization has the right resources to look into this data and manage this data, because sometimes it's huge, then yes. And if it's not, and it's not really adding value, then no need. This is how I see it.
Yes. I think in many organizations, performance appraisal differs from one organization to another. Some people have just documents, so even there is no discussion. So the manager fills the paper and then the employee has to sign. And like it, doesn't like it, you sign or you go to the HR or to the administration, okay? So there is no discussion at all. In other organizations, there is discussion, but again, the manager does it and they discuss and they have discussion. In more mature organizations, said as this, again, as per the level, I prefer that the employee do some self-appraisal first, so self-assessment, so he or she can know where are the gaps. Maybe I see this is my gap, and my managers tell me something different, or vice versa, okay? Someone was talking, give a note when we were talking about the presentation about the 360 feedback. I'll say that we can do 360 and get performance from other colleagues and so on, so for your managers, your colleagues, and people, your team. Again, this is very good technique, but you have to be very cautious with 360, because 360 is very dangerous. You have to make sure first that the culture is ready for 360. Otherwise, don't do it, okay? So again, and I highly believe that we have to be aware first of the importance of the performance appraisal or giving feedback, we don't call it, I don't like to call it appraisal as appraisal. In Zain, we used to call it Zain dialogue because we see it as continuous discussion between the manager and his team. Okay. And by the way, there's something very important at Zain. We don't call your team member subordinate. We don't use this. It was forbidden to use subordinate. You and your team. Okay. So small things like this can make big difference in the culture, okay, of the organization. Again, we see it as a dialogue, continuous discussion, and giving and receiving feedback. They say that feedback is a gift. That's why you should always give feedback. Okay? And don't let people be surprised at the end of the year or the end of the quarter, giving them feedback that you're not good or you are. So why do you stay the whole year and just tell me now for the appraisal time? I think the appraisal and performance evaluation have a lot of things to be discussed, but again, we're trying to, we take already 20 minutes more than the time. But again, if there is another important question, we can discuss, or what do you think? So if you have any comments, Sama or Shireen. Okay. The presentation, by the way, we'll send, inshallah, the presentation to the people who registered. And also the recording will be on the our YouTube channel, inshallah. Okay.
Inshallah. It was really my pleasure to be with you for this short presentation from my side, and I enjoyed. Thank you so much, Shireen, for your informative and high level of proficiency presentation you have given and information. And thanks to everyone who asked a question or gave a comment or wrote in the chat. Thank you so much for your sweet comments. It was my pleasure, and hope to see you again, inshallah, so soon with Dr. Rabia in other presentations, sharing your valuable information and knowledge and experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sama, and thank you, Dr. Rabia, and thank you everyone who attended and gave us your attention and time. It's really valuable. So, and we hope that we have added some value and some information that will enable you have a successful performance review cycle. And Happy New Year in a very advanced.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shireen, and thank you so much, Sama, for this great session. I really enjoyed being with you and exchanging some knowledge and expertise. And inshallah, we'll keep the discussion in our group, and excuse us if we don't reply back to some questions. Inshallah, we'll see with both Shireen and Sama if anyone has a question, then they can answer. Okay? Thank you so much. I'm looking forward, inshallah, for fruitful coming sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and good night to everybody. Thank you.
Bye.